Hi, welcome. This is Angela Coulter, your Consciousness Transformation Ascension Guide, originator of Trinity Energy Progression, bringing you this week's Living the Shift. This is a topic near and dear to my heart because it's something that I have discussions about all the time. It's something that we talk about all the time, and it's really important to start looking underneath the surface in the cracks and crevices. So, I have a lot of people that come to me. And I have a lot of people who come to me and they're like, I'm ready for change. I'm just done with this. I want to do something else. I want to have a different life. I want to have a different relationship. I'm, I want this differently. Good morning, Yasmin. And so, we talk about it and we will do maybe some sessions and maybe they'll take a class or two and then they sort of disappear and then they come back. Good morning, Ann. And then they come back at some point and they're like, well, it doesn't seem like anything's changing, or everything got crazy and I panicked. Everything started to collapse and it felt icky, and it was so much energy to keep it all together. And yet then I still get but I'm ready for change. So the response to that is no judgment. And this is because we all do this. We all do this. The response to this and the discussion that we always have is, so do you really want change, or do you just want to manage your chaos? And that sounds really crazy. It sounds like ridiculous, and the ego gets offended and defensive and says, well, what do you mean? Of course I want change. I don't want this to be around me anymore. Except if it's around us, it's still for some reason desired in our reality. So coming to that realization, part of the foundation of all of this is coming to the understanding that we are the creators of our reality. You can look at quantum physics, you can look at all kinds of spirituality. The basis of my understanding, the way I work, is that we are the divine, we are fractals of the whole, and we create our realities as the embodiment of the divine as we are, to create the lessons and experiences we choose to create. So therefore, having is evidence of wanting. Like, I can't even remember the person who said that. There was somebody who I used to follow who said that once, and I was like, that is like one of the best statements ever, because it's so true. Having is evidence of wanting. Because if we create our reality, and we do, right? Then if we have it in our reality, we've created it there for some reason. And when we go around and we say, oh, well, I want to get rid of this, but I can't seem to, or it's still there. There's so many layers of embedded identity, right? Was it Carolyn Elliott, Sarah? I thought it was that other that other person. I can't remember her name, with the blonde hair, but I can't remember her name. Anyway, yeah, might have been Carolyn. It might have been the other person. Doesn't even matter, because it's just a great saying, and it is just fabulous and um and perfect. But anyway, so here's the thing. Often we want to let go of something because, well, we say we want to let go of something because it's uncomfortable, right? Well, or we're tired of this, or we're exhausted of all the energy we're putting into it. And so we are in this place of, oh, I want to get it. However, here's the thing. At a deep level, the ego attaches to certain things, right? In its exploration of identity and separation, right? So in the exploration of identity, it comes to this place of recognizing, oh, well, this makes me part of who I am, right? Being a martyr, having to sacrifice myself, or choosing to sacrifice myself, or being in situations where I have to, right? Being in relationships where, I'm giving more than I'm receiving, uh, being at a job where I'm overworked and underpaid, all that kind of stuff, right? And it's part of this persona that we create underneath the surface, where um, where it's like, if we let go of this, if we let go of this part of ourselves truly, because here's the thing, we might not want the situation, but we want the energy because we feel like that identifies us, right? So let's just use martyrdom because that's one of the most common that we have totally exalted and idealized. So martyrdom is like, this whole like giving, 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 sacrifice, 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 suffering, suffering, suffering for the greater good, for, others, all that kind of stuff. And we have exalted the idea of that. And so we've done that for so many generations, so many eons. This whole like giving away our whole self, giving away our whole, and that gives us value, right? So if we break that down from a consciousness standpoint, we look at there's the idea of, well, I don't believe I'm innately valuable. I believe I'm unworthy. I believe I have to what? Strive to attain to be divine versus the fact that I'm innately divine just because I exist. It is what I've created as the embodiment of me in a fractal form of the whole. And we have just pushed everything. And so, like a conversation I was having with Yasmin and Sarah yesterday about, one of the biggest things that we tend to not look at is what we've created in the creation of religions, right? All kinds. I'm not just talking about Christianity or any particular one, but in general, so many of them are all about this martyrdom and all about this sacrifice and give to others more than give to yourself, and you're a piece of dirt. And you have to earn your place in the kingdom of God or whatever, right? And that's the whole thing. And what we talk about being born in original sin, and it's all about this lack, 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 lack. You're not, you're not, you're not, you're not. And then we start to attach this identity to, well, you have to prove myself and I am worthless. So I have to prove myself. And to prove myself means that others have to believe me to be like good, right? That have to believe me to be divine. And in a set of cultures where we set it up that you have to be sacrificing yourself in suffering and not nourishing yourself to be divine, then we attach to that and say, well, then that's what I've got to do to prove myself. And then that's the energy we hold. And we do it again and again and again. And so then we feel like, okay, well, then people should value us because of my sacrifice, right? People should value me because of my sacrifice. I should be looked well upon, or I'm not doing it, or I'm not doing it. How about this one? I'm not doing it well enough, so I must have to suffer more. I must have to sacrifice more. And that sounds ridiculous, but it is so true. It's so true that we do that. So anyway, the reason I'm going through all that is because we can say we want to change a situation, and that the inner self starts to fight and balk, like sort of balk against it in a way of going, no, that's not who we are. And so you have the expanded self saying, it's time to get beyond this. And then you have the ego clutching, going, no, 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 no. Even though it's uncomfortable, it's what I know, it's who I am. And if I didn't have this, I don't know who I would be. And I don't think I would be worthy if I wasn't. That's how deeply it is embedded in us. And so when somebody comes to me and says, I want change, and this isn't the only reason, the only thing, really it goes down to this belief that in separation we're unworthy. Because I always say it's like it's less than 2 steps to unworthiness, no matter how we look at it. And so it's a constant review of, okay, when somebody comes into a session and says, I want to get rid of something, right? So first of all, you have that. You have the identity. The second thing is the belief that it's too hard to change. The belief that change, here are some of the beliefs that are underneath the resistance to change. Change is hard. Change is scary. It could be so much worse if I allow change. And so I can say I don't want to do it. And then the ego says, but if I go and do all these things and then it doesn't work, I can then claim that I'm victim to it and I can't change it. And this isn't a conscious thought. So, like I said, there's no judgment on this. It's just a matter of this is what we fooled ourselves to believe. And so, good morning, Kathy. And so it's this interesting like play in this game. So when somebody shows up and says, I want to change this, and yet all of their actions say, yeah, I don't want to change this. Then I do say to them, then let's not waste our each other's time and your money, because when they come for sessions, it's like, because if you're really ready to do change, then it's important for us to do something different, right? So it's that whole, that terminology. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So we can do that, but in a propulsion based reality that we've created in this incarnation here, this part of our consciousness, it does not quite usually work unless there's other really big mitigating factors around you. So here's the thing: when we get to a point on our path where the expanded self says it's time for me to do this. I'm done with this. This is complete. I'm moving into this, right? No matter what the ego tries to clutch onto, it is going to crumble, right? So I always come back to the tower card in the tarot deck, because that's what it is. It's everything crumbles except what's really necessary. And it can be painful only because the ego wants to hold on, and the pain energy is all ego energy. So remember that. So the understanding of separation identity, the exploration of separation identity, and is also part of, good morning, Gloria, it's also part of the shadow. And so it's all pain, anger, anxiety, fear, resentment, blame, shame, judgment. All that is ego related. Again, no judgment. This is just observation. And so when we say, oh, change is painful, it's painful to the ego, because now the ego has to change its identity when you really truly change something. If you're forcing yourself from the expanded perspective to just let it go. And then it's all a matter of how we choose to experience it. We can say change is fun, change is scary. We can say it is exhilarating, or it is terrifying, right? And so the thing is, we say often we want to change something, but if we really fundamentally change it all the way, it would change our identity, and the ego doesn't like that. So then it does these things, like it plays these head games with itself. It's sort of funny. We play these head games with ourselves and say, again, I'm going to try this, and this, and I'm only going to do it halfway. I'm going to pretend I'm sort of put a little energy into it, and then I'm not going to do anything. And then I'm going to say, oh, well, see, it didn't work, so I'm going to move on to something else. And I'm going to keep on doing that until I feel like I've expended all the externalized ways to attend to it, and then I'm going to say, well, I just can't do anything about it. So we've become lazy in that sense. Like, we've come to this place of saying, yeah, see this didn't work, and so I'm just a victim to this. I can't do anything about it. I have a gray cloud over me. I can't do anything. I can't do all this because I have this genetic disease. Or, I got this, through genetics, or I have this chronic illness and stuff. So here's the thing. When we truly, truly accept that we are the creators of reality, we realize we create what we create, we can change. Many times, and again, this is without judgment, many times we at some level believe we have to maintain a genetic, something that was genetically passed down, because it keeps us connected to our family. It keeps us a part of the group. At the DNA level, like, we'll do it. Say, oh yeah, I'll take that on, because then I'll feel like I'm part of the family, and we'll stay out together, And then who would I be if I wasn't that? We have that going on throughout. There are so many who've had these, like, just one horrific, say, really bad relationship after another, say abusive or just lacking in incredible ways or whatever. And at the end of the day, it comes down to a person's belief of unworthiness. But they're so uncomfortable with looking in the mirror to say that they believe they're unworthy that they will just continue to blame it on all these other circumstances. Oh, well, I didn't know. I didn't see the signs. Oh, love is blind. Or I can change them, right? There's all of these, because underneath it, if you feel like you can change somebody, then you feel powerful and worthy, and then they should have thanks for you. But that's just all expectation, and that all again comes from the ego. So it's all of this stuff, and we go on about wanting change, and so, like, there are many who have come to me with chronic conditions who have said, I know I can change this. I'm ready to change it. And when somebody says that, I say, are you really ready to change it? Because it will take some real hard looks in the mirror. And I'm not saying that with any judgment. I'm not saying that with, like, inflection that it has to be hard. But if we have identified with something and made it our own as part of our identity, like, this always happens to me, this never happens to me, or I just, I've got this because it's genetic and blah, 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 blah. If we, the thing is, it's all from the non-physical, right? So any physical thing we create comes from the non-physical. Soul agreements. I agreed with my soul family that I learned lessons this way. We can change that, especially when it, like things like cancer and chronic illness, like allergies and things like that. You can change allergies. I've changed them. I've released them. I had a bunch of them. Our bodies are rebuilding themselves all the time. We can change allergies. I've worked with people to finally tap into themselves to change to a place that, like, they've changed something a doctor told them they couldn't. This is so important because the thing is, when we are saying we are ready for change, then be ready to commit to it, because when we're ready to commit to it, we're going to have, there's going to be a lot that changes in the foundation of our reality. So sometimes that means changing what we do as a job, changing where we work, changing our relationships, changing where we live. Sometimes there's, like, when we change a fundamental part of ourselves to really change and allow the change, all other stuff is like that's there, that we're holding up the facade of that change, just sort of collapses, so that it gives you a fresh playground to create what does really serve you in the bigger picture, free of those things that were holding you down and holding you back, right? So, and like I said, it could be illness, it could be patterns in your life, right, of being unlucky, or being poor, or being sick, or whatever. And we can change that. It's a matter of looking at why we would have created that in our reality. To go back to what I talked about in the beginning, why would I create that in my reality? If evidence is if having is evidence of wanting, and I create my reality, which I do, then why do I want this in my reality? And when we look at it without judgment, because the ego gets all offended and says, what do you mean? Why would I wouldn't create that. That's ridiculous. I have no control over that. And we have 20 reasons why we have no control over that. We can change it. And and when someone is ready to really, dig in and change it, then it's a matter of accepting all that shifts, all of what shifts, to change it so that they are in that state that is more aligned with their higher purpose, with their expanded purpose, with their divine self. And then, the most, like, and yes, it can cause a lot of tears. It can cause a lot of, I want to say pain, but that's only from the ego, and it's all what we choose. So when we say, okay, well, it's a challenge, because it's really shifting our perspective on so many things that we take for granted in our reality. And then, like, sometimes to shift, like, it's to, like, really lose and let go. I don't want to say let go, lose, but let go of everything that we've had, because all of that was a facade to perpetuate the belief and the identity that was held in the ego, right? Um, yes, Gloria, sometimes that means letting go of relationships or multiple relationships. Yeah, and yeah, Kathy, it is, allergies can be changed. Um, that's one of these, and it's funny because we're just so used to listening to doctors, the medical field. Oh, these things are chronic. When we, as soon as we say chronic, the ego says, "Oh, that means I'm going to have this forever, and I'm never going to be able to change this." Oh, it's genetic. I'm not going to be able to change this. Yeah, we can. There's been so much that I've seen, so much I've heard about, so much I've done myself. But the thing is that, oh, there's a quote by, was it a Helen Keller quote about changes? It was like, oh, God, I'm totally blanking. So, well, I'm just going to skip over that. And I think I have it on my voicemail. Um, uh, it has to do with, change. Security is a perception, right? Safety is a perception. And when the ego says, "Oh, I'm doing this to keep us safe," it's a perception. There's nothing that's truly safe from change except our being in existence in wholeness. Everything else is part of the illusion of creation and duality and triality and separation and the multiverse. And so there's so many different parts to the hologram that it changes constantly. There's nothing that's finite. And so when we say to ourselves, "Oh no, this won't change," or "I can't change this about me," and it's like, well, but you can, because you don't really you don't really exist. In the bigger picture, I don't really exist. I'm an illusion just like you are. We're all just part of this play that we've created as the divine consciousness. And when we start to accept that and say, okay, so, well, then why am I so like grasping onto this? This is how I've always been. This is how I have to be. This is what I have to do to be loved, right? Again, externalizations. All about externalizations. These things I do because this way, at some level, I believe that others will love me or value me because of this. And this is how I've always done it. This is how this is how I've been rewarded by it, by other people, versus this is what makes me be who I am, or allows me to be, not makes me, but allows me to be truly the divine I am. Nicole says, many flavors of ice cream, I prefer nuts in mine, lol. Yeah, well, the thing is, and maybe you want to change that tomorrow. And does that matter? It doesn't. That's part of it. So change is truly like, if you are saying you want change, look in the mirror and say, am I really ready to accept everything that could come around change, right? Because sometimes what we create in our realities gives us attention from other people that makes us feel loved that we wouldn't otherwise feel, right? Which means, and it's important for us to look in the mirror, to look at our unworthiness, to look at our self-love or lack of. So that's what it comes down to: unworthiness and lack of unconditional self-love. So that's what we always are working on at the core. So people think it's oversimplified when we say unconditional self-love, right? No, because that is a big, massive project of remembrance and worthiness. And it's like, I know people probably get tired of listening. Others people probably get tired of me saying unworthiness. Well, that's because of your belief of unworthiness. I was having an interchange with somebody yesterday about that, and I said, well, this has to do with your worthiness. Like, oh well, I feel like I can't do this. I have to. So here is an example. I have to do this because I'm somebody who always puts out for my friends. I'm like, you don't have to do anything, and part of you putting out for your friends and sacrificing yourself, putting out for your friends before you put for yourself, has to do with your belief of unworthiness, because doing that makes you believe that other people will love you because you don't love yourself. That's the important thing to start looking at, to turn all of that in the mirror back to ourselves, saying, okay, so what am I doing? What am I holding on to in my reality? Whether it's my house, what I have in my house, the relationships I have, the car that I have, the sickness that I have, the chronic whatever that I have, how does that serve me how does that serve my ego, Well, when I say me, it's ego, because ego has to do with identity and separation. So how does that serve me in the bigger picture? How do I believe that serves me in the bigger picture? And when I go beyond that and I'm really truly ready for a much bigger bite of that, much bigger and truer sense of self and centeredness and peace and strength and magical creation. When I'm really, really ready for that, is the time to thank the ego, to apologize and forgive. It goes back to, again, the apology forgiveness thing. The apologize, forgive, accept, embrace, love, have gratitude for the whole circle of things. Like, don't judge all of it. See the beauty in all of it. See how it was perfect in the lessons that you chose to learn. And to say, okay, well, now I'm going to change that belief. I know I can. It's a belief I've chosen to have as me, and now I'm going to change that and see what happens. Let's just play with that. But the part of it is to stop judging ourselves, because then it's like, well, the first thing we say is, well, why would I create? I can't believe I created that, or I'm so mad at my body. I'm so mad at this. That is why Sarah C. Gavagnoni, my partner in crime over there on Ascended World on Monday mornings, that we do our podcast on Monday mornings, we've done the 28 Days of Forgiveness program that we've had a great group of individuals doing and covering all kinds of things of, like, of forgiveness. But the forgiveness thing, and people say, oh, I've done forgiving, I don't have any forgiving to do. But the thing is, we are talking about forgiveness to ourselves. We're talking about forgiveness to situations and energies that we've held and beliefs that we've held and victimhood that we've chosen and created. And so in that, it's like apology for creating that in my reality, forgiveness too, and then accepting that it was part of the bigger picture, embracing it, loving it, having gratitude for having that completed, and then completing it in that circle. So then you don't have to hold that energy of creating it again anymore, right? So I keep on coming back to it like a broken record this month, but it does really tie in. And forgiveness and apology, by the way, is all ego. Because in expanded consciousness, there is no need for forgiveness and apology, because it's all perfect and it's all part of the symphony, and we see that. There's no lack or anything. It just is in the creation. But this whole effort that we've created, the energy, the forgiveness, the apology, forgiveness, embracing, love, gratitude, circle, right? This whole program that we created, the 28 Days of Forgiveness, are hitting on these really deep layers that we're not even often conscious we're operating in. And so it's been really a powerful tool. So go and watch some of our podcasts on Mondays on Ascended World. We have those videos up, and we have them on our site, ascendedworld.net. And so, and Glorious is an awesome program. Thank you. Yeah, and it is, because quite honestly, Sarah and I both created it, and then we're doing it on the other end, and actually being a participant is quite different than even being the creator of it, and very powerful on both ends. So, and it sounds like I'm just plugging it, but it's actually it's all interrelated. It's all so naturally interrelated. And what is it? Today's the 25th, and actually through the end of the month, you can still take the program for $28. Seriously, it's self-paced. You can go in, it's like 15-20 minute video, 10 to 15 minute video a day, and then a little 5-minute workbook thing before the video that you do on your own, and then an affirmation, and then we have a discussion board every day, different topic for 28 days to get you in the habit of seeing things in this circle and to letting go of these things that we hold in all these layers, right? So that's my little plug. But it is really important to really recognize that a lot of times we hold on to stuff because if we actually looked at it directly in its face, we would say, oh my gosh, that's so awful. How could I do that? And that's a judgment to be forgiven and apologized for and resolved and completed. And so, because it's like, well, I'm divine. I can do anything. So even the most horrific events even the things that the ego deems the most horrific are things that we planned to help to be a catalyst, to shift direction, to create awareness. And then we do it from the small, tiny, 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 tiny nudges to bigger, 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 bigger. It's like this, if I keep on ignoring it, it gets bigger to the community, to the collective, to the world, etc. Right? So, that's why we have these things, and then we end up getting injuries. We have accidents. We, then lose our jobs, or we have to move, or somebody, some relationship falls apart. All of them have a cause underneath that fits into the bigger picture. So when you are saying, I'm ready for change, the key is, oh my goodness, it's already 35 minutes. I don't know how that went there. When you get to the saying, I'm ready for change, recognize that change can be good. Because the ego sort of a lot of times like tightens up and says, oh, really? How about we just change this little bit and hold on to this other stuff because that's more comfortable. Yeah, but if we changed here or something, it often is interrelated with all of these other things. And so removing this from a reality for sure, for in truth, will change and shift all these other things. And that's not a bad thing, because often that like frees up a whole bunch of energy for expanded creation versus limited creation, or creation through limitation, then so that we can really truly live in this place of freedom and wholeness and remembrance and love and laughter and all that good stuff. And we can also change our beliefs. There's another discussion for another day. Changing our beliefs to recognize that it can be easy. This journey can be easy. We can have a good time. We can have fun, and we can still accomplish everything we're here to accomplish. There does not need to be any suffering. That's all created by the idea of the ego and separation, identity, and all the other stuff that's attached to it. So that's part of why we then think we can have it too easy too. So that's a discussion for another day. But anyway, so look in your life where you keep on saying, I want change, but the thing keeps on coming back around. Look underneath and say, all right, what's inside of me to look at? Like, is it unworthiness? Is it, do I have unconditional, do I have self-love? Am I focusing on self-love and nourishment? Do I recognize that my centeredness, my consciousness, my being is the priority over everything else? Because, yeah, Gloria says change has a domino effect. That's exactly right. So, because when I do that, when I focus on my self-love and my worthiness, everything will shift around to support that and reflect back to you like that. Relationships will be better. The job will be better. Your financial state will be better. Your living will be better. And you'll have a better perspective on wherever you are, and it will shift everything around you. It's that easy. And yet the ego gets so scared to it. So scared to do it because it's like, well, then who would I be? Would people, like, there's so many things that we could talk about that I could go on for another half hour easily about why the ego fears change. Because sometimes it's on the other end of what you would think, like, oh, well, if I do this, I'm too powerful. And people would, burn me at the stake. It's been done. Or I'm too... I could, abuse other people, or people would be afraid of me. Like, and those are other fears. Again, that's externalizing, going, well, but if I'm okay with who I am, it doesn't matter. If I'm okay in a place of love, unconditional self-love, there's nothing I can do but be effusive and let it overflow to others. And then at some point, that gives everybody else around me the permission to do the same for themselves. So I'm going to leave you with that thought and start looking at those things, because there's so many things to look at. When we say we want change and nothing's changing, then the thing is, well, then do something different and then allow it to change. That's the big thing. So, and I'm going to go. Thank you for joining me. This is Angela Coulter signing off with this week's Living the Shift. See you next week. Bye.